Thank you so much, Jennifer. Well, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This is an interesting crowd to have here. I have my Toastmasters, who I'm used to speaking to all the time, and then I have members of my family and friends from various periods of my life. So I was wondering what I would feel more comfortable doing. Talking to a group of strangers or talking to all these people I know? And for a moment I thought maybe a group of strangers. And I think it's because the nature of this book, all 15 women authors made themselves very vulnerable in this volume, myself included, in ways that I haven't before. If you've had a chance to look at it, Jill and I are co-authors among 15 other women in Ready to Fly. You'll read 15 stories from women who've gone through hardships and traumas and have come out on top. So we hope that everyone who reads it becomes inspired by the stories. Now, I first became acquainted with the project when I was doing work with Jill as a life coach over a year ago. And Jill said, "Hollie, you have a really powerful story. Why don't you contribute to this project I heard of called Ready to Fly?" And I said, "Sure, I'll look at it." "Well, why don't you send me the information?" Well, I looked it over, and all you had to do was apply and then submit a sample of your writing. I had started working on my personal memoir, and I thought this will be very simple. I'll just submit chapter 1. So I submitted it, and a few days later I was absolutely thrilled that I got accepted into the anthology. I thought, wow, this is a dream come true. I've always wanted to be an author. I've always loved writing. And since I'm writing my memoir, this is a great way to break into the publishing world. Not to mention, I love to connect with people through stories and through the written word. So I think about all the possibilities with this, and then that's when I go, oh goodness, what am I doing here? Because most people who know me in my everyday life may look at me like, oh, I'm this happy-go-lucky, goofy person who loves to travel the world and runs marathons all over the place. And all that is true. But what most people don't know was that I was sexually assaulted when I was 13 years old. And it was something that I never talked about. You know, I lived in intense shame for decades over it, and always felt like I had to prove myself worthy, not just of my own love, but everyone else's. And I thought, I don't want to live there anymore. I don't want to live in that shame. I don't want other women to live in that shame. So anytime I doubted myself in writing this volume, I thought, okay, I need to think of the bigger picture here. If I can reach out to even one person, if I can help one woman step out of her shame and silence and secrecy and learn to love herself more and have more self-compassion, then I've done my job. Then when I started writing the story, I was stuck. Because it's not really in my character to write something really emotionally laden and morose. You know, I tend to write funny stories. My family can attest to that. I wrote really quirky, funny stories when I was growing up. And I wanted to bring my humor and the different facets of my personality into this story. It didn't seem it was fitting with all the other chapters in the anthology. So I talked to Crystal Blue, who's the coordinator of this project, and I asked her, can I write something funny? Can it have dialogue in it? And she said, of course. Be true to your style. Use your own voice. It doesn't matter if it looks like everybody else's. Tell your story in your way. I thought, excellent. That's just the permission I needed to get. So when I was thinking about how to tell my story, I thought, I'll tell it in 3 different sections. The first section, I'll talk about who I was before this experience happened and how I thought it changed me. And then in the middle, I'll put an anecdote that exemplifies who I am and how I live my life now. And then in the third and final section, I'll talk about how this experience shaped me, but ultimately it didn't change the core of who I was. So in terms of the anecdote, the perfect opportunity presented itself. I went to Peru a little over a year ago to run the Inca Trail Marathon. And as you heard Jennifer say, I'm trying to run a marathon on all 7 continents. My mother's not very happy about that. But it's something that I'm very determined and excited to do. And of course, I had to choose one of the toughest marathons in the world on the Inca Trail. That's where you run 26.2 miles up to 12,000 feet on a very technical rocky trail. But I thought, I can do it. Well, when I went to Peru, I got swept up in the spirit of adventure and ended up going ziplining 2 days before the marathon across a river and slamming into the platform on the other side. I ended up injuring my foot pretty badly. Running was out of the question at that point. I was still going to do the marathon. I didn't care if I was hobbling on one leg the whole time. I was going to do it. Well, I don't want to give too much away of the story in Ready to Fly, that I didn't end up completing the marathon. In fact, I had to go to extraordinary and ridiculous methods to get off the Inca Trail and get back to civilization. It became a comedy of errors. I thought, wow, I can't make this up. I feel like I'm living in a movie. And it made me realize, if we just flow with the stream of unexpected events, rather than worrying about what we have planned, sometimes those are the most enriching experiences. What I did on the Inca Trail are not experiences I would have chosen for myself. But circumstances forced me to do them. I couldn't just stay stuck on the trail with a bad foot. So it turned out to be this wonderful adventure, better than anything I could have conjured up myself. And that's when I thought, I could apply that to traumatic experiences that have happened to me. It's certainly not something I would have planned by any means, but if I embrace it, it's something that I can use to reach out to people. The thing that Jill and I learned in writing this anthology and in talking to all the other women is that we're not unique here. We all have stories to tell. We all have traumas and hardships that we've gone through. But we can either stay in our pain, or we can transform those stories of pain, grief, and suffering into stories of triumph and empowerment. Not just for ourselves, but for other people. We can find purpose in our pain. In fact, you could probably think to the times, to the situations that have hurt you the most, and that's where you can be of most service to people. And that's what I hope you'll gain from reading these stories.